This conference will now be recorded.
Salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty,
justice for all.
Thank you, and it's just a pleasure to see everybody tonight. After a somewhat disturbing weekend, but we have two different topics this evening on the agenda with people who are going to address the board, and the first is representatives from our Rotary Club who are going to do a presentation regarding public transportation bus shelters that they have been working on for a couple of years in terms of design and now locations. So with that said, I'll invite, who do we have here?
I muted everyone because we're getting bad feedback. I'm not sure which of the Rotary speakers is going to present, but if you could just unmute yourself, that would be great.
So I understood it was going to be Bill Clutterback.
I don't see him online unless he is the private individual. Bill, if you, sorry.
Hi, this is Harris Semigram from the Rotary Club. Bill got to us not more than an hour ago and said he can't make it. So we have three other people on the line from the club. Oh, Heather's here. Heather, would you like to start off, and we can all unmute ourselves if we need to fill in for you?
Sure, that'd be great.
And I have your presentation up. You can just let me know when to move ahead with it.
Okay, will do. So to start with, I'd like to thank you for allowing us to do this presentation. I'm sure that a lot of you have heard of our project around town. We've been working on this for a couple of years. You know, when we initially started it, we had a conversation with Craig Randall. We went to the town board and talked with them. So we got ideas from different people on this. And then we were connected with Dean Dietrich, connected us with the Clarkson students who helped us put together, well, helped us, we helped them. They put together the shelters for us. They did a whole project for us, which was awesome. So that's really where we started, and we're ready to move ahead, and we're reaching out to both the village and the town for your support. So you can move ahead. These are the Rotarians that are on this committee. There's 7 of us on the committee. I think you probably know most of us. So go ahead here. What we are offering are 3 bus shelters. Rotary will work with the financing, the design, which we worked with the Clarkson students on, and getting the bus shelters built. So what we are asking is for both the village and the town to, once the bus shelters are built, to take ownership of the bus shelters and to maintain the on the daily operating expenses of them. So we're asking for memorandum of agreements with the property owners and with Rotary. And, you know, if an agreement, if we could get a timeline when these things could be done. The 3 locations that we have worked with to have these shelters are, the first one is the bus stop that's near the White Basin Road. The second one is the Four Seasons property on Sentinel Road. And the third one is at the entrance of Cascade Acres, all current bus stops. Again, these were chosen from conversations that we've had with different people and from our own sightings of stops that we see could benefit from a bus shelter. And again, our ask is to the village and town to take ownership of these bus shelters, to have the agreement with the landowners, to work with them. We did have an initial conversation with each of the landowners and to cover the daily operating expenses of the shelters. And this design here is the design that Clarkson put together for us to give you an idea of what they will look like. I do want to mention that the final design, we did want to have room for a wheelchair, so that bench would not go all the way across. They did do a separate one that splits that up so that there is room for a wheelchair in the shelter. But this is basically the design that we're looking at. Go ahead. These were some other examples when we were looking for bus shelters, some ideas that we gave Clarkson for them to come up with the shelter that that they designed. But again, just to give you another idea of the basic idea, you know, we want to keep it with the Adirondack look and everything. So just to give you another idea of the look of the bus shelters. What we're looking at is using either pressure treated wood or cedar with tempered glass. We want a solar charging station in the shelters with Wi-Fi hotspots, a place for the bus route maps in the shelters, and waste and recycling receptacles there. The estimate that the Clarkson students gave us was approximately $30,000 for the 3 shelters, and in the estimates we're getting, we're finding that it's pretty accurate is what we're looking at. And that would be fully funded by our Rotarian driven donations. And we're well on our way to getting to that $30,000. So we're pretty optimistic about that. So in our conversation with the landowners, their biggest concern is the liability. So hoping that the village and town would work with the owners and their willingness to have the bus shelters on their property. Going forward, you know, this is a big project for us. We're very proud of it. It's something that we would continue to have an interest in. We're obviously a service club, so that's why we're coming to you, because we cannot own these shelters. We need somebody else to own them. And we can't do the daily maintenance of them. But we would be interested in helping where needed, you know, things like spring cleanups, or, you know, if there's times when they need to be stained or something like that. We do those type of projects all the time. So it would be something that would be in our interest to keep them well maintained in that way. Looking for a summer installation, hopefully this year. And so, and also, you know, if you support us, how we can support you too, and what the next steps would be. So again, our requests are for the town and village to own and maintain the bus shelters, including trash and snow removal. For the bus shelters to be covered under the municipal liability insurance, and for the town and village to have the MOUs with the property owners. Okay. And that's my presentation. Open for questions.
Hey, Heather, it's Peter. Why don't you apply for the LEAF money available to pay for these?
Thank you for that suggestion. We do have an application into LEAF as part of our fundraising.
We're working on the application. It's due March 1st.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the suggestion.
Janet, would you like to comment on the agreements that are required here? I believe there's at least 2 with the a memorandum of understanding with Rotary, which would give those to the town or village, as the case may be. And then secondly, an agreement with the landowners, I would expect would be necessary before they could be located there. I'm happy to contribute the fact that the supervisor and I have been discussing this project in the last several hours. And we believe that all three of the proposed sites so that the property owners are or will be interested and receptive.
Craig, I'm thinking that there's two agreements here. One between Rotary and the village, and Heather's presentation, I think, made it fairly clear that Rotary would be donating these to the village. So we really don't need a memorandum of understanding other than to accept their gift. Because if I listened correctly and heard correctly, Heather, you're saying these would absolutely become the property of the village, and the village would have the responsibility for the care and maintenance of them. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I think from that standpoint, it's the village just accepting a very generous gift from Rotary. Then on the other side, it's the property owners will need to be spoken to, and see what they want in terms of any agreement for the placement of these on their property. I think, Heather, you've already identified one requirement that at least a preliminary discussions with the property owners have identified, which is no surprise, insurance.
Oh, it's a big one.
You know a little bit about insurance, don't you, Heather? And I'm sure that we can work with our carrier to explain the situation that we own these bus shelters. They've been placed on private property, and see if the liability portion, and we have a substantial liability portion of our policy, can include these. Another possibility might be Essex County, because as you might know, Essex County runs our bus system. The village does not. The buses are owned and operated by county employees, so it's possible there's another avenue there for satisfying landowners with whatever protections they might require. One thing that is probably going to come up, you did mention that the sites would have waste bins and recycling, and that may be an issue for landowners. It may be an issue for the village in terms of having to take care of those. But that was just something I hadn't heard before. I don't know much about Wi-Fi spots, how those would work, and what would happen if they went down, how the village would be responsible for reconnecting them. But somebody more technologically inclined than me can help with that question. But I think I think we can probably work this out to the satisfaction of landowners, as long as they're willing to work with us.
I think the question also might be, is the village and or town responsible for providing the Wi-Fi hotspot? Well, that will need to go on our plan, correct?
The initial
I don't know
cost,
to answer that question.
our proposal.
I'm sorry, Heather, I didn't hear you.
The initial costs that we're talking about included the initial setting up of those, but moving forward on an annual basis, yes.
Okay.
That would be the village or town.
The hotspot or the Wi-Fi might become more interesting. There has been, and it's been some time now since this conversation occurred, but one of the things that has been looked at and would be useful is that a passenger would have the ability to know where the next public transport, whether it's a bus or a trolley, is and how long before it's going to get to a particular stop. So my assumption is that those systems would undoubtedly provide that type of resource, but certainly it's something that can be looked into.
Hi, this is Harris Semigram. Just to bookend what Heather has spoken about, some of you may know that our committee made a presentation to the Appearance Committee within the last week to 10 days, and we presented the designs because we're very conscious about keeping the aesthetic of the bus shelters in line with the rest of the appearance of the town and village. So we approached our design with Clarkson to be very cognizant of that fact. And I would say that the Appearance Committee was very receptive to what we presented, even to the point of suggesting that we could include some additions on the shelters themselves to provide for example, spaces for artwork from the schools as part of just, a town project. And it also came up in the meeting that the bus systems, they are GPS enabled, so that's not functioning right now, but if it could be worked out that could be switched on, it would be a very good benefit, as we've just heard, for the town and our visitors to know when that bus is approaching the shelter, and that could relieve some of the vehicular traffic in town if there was increased use of the public system.
I think-
I agree 100%, Harris. This is a conversation that we've had for about 5 years now, and it's a very simple process. It just seems there be a disconnect. Maybe this is an avenue to get it really on track and have the trolley be a useful public transportation tool when when residents know or the users know when it's going to be there approximately. Sure.
Other comments or questions? Are you making this same presentation to the town board, or has that already been done?
We made the presentation to the town board in January, so they've already started working on it. I was corresponding with Jay, and I think he's made some initial conversations with a couple of the property owners, but
I did have, there was a discussion with the supervisor earlier today in the mayor's office. And I think we're all in agreement. This is obviously subject to the board resolutions confirming, but this would appear to be a very nice addition to the community that does allow for passengers on the either the bus or trolleys to be out of the weather a little bit. I think they're pretty efficient looking design from what I see. And I think at this point, maybe a resolution from this board agreeing in concept, subject to the development of the appropriate agreements that are needed between local government, being town and village and Rotary, and then with each landowner being successfully negotiated. The supervisor and I have committed to working with the landowners to help with that part of it. So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion on the topic at this point? Janet, anything more you would care to offer?
Nope. I think it's a good project, and we can move forward as long as the landowners are willing to help us.
The one thing I did discussion today with the supervisor is, as Janet has pointed out, the operating entity for the Placid Express is Essex County, and it has been for a few years now. I will reach out to the county personnel. As you know, there's no, due to COVID, there's no Placid Express operation currently. And it's been a while since we've had a meeting with them, I would say at least a year, since they shut down the public transport. Portions of the county public transportation have begun to restart, but with very limited passengers on board, and again, on obviously one of the other issues is protecting passengers and drivers as well from the impacts of the COVID pandemic. So, but it's a good conversation. I believe with the increase in activity in the village between the projects that are going to be taking place this year at the Olympic Center and also the Main Street, that it would be helpful if we could have even limited public transportation begin to restart. Also, from a financial standpoint, the operation of the trolleys in the village of Lake Placid and town of North Elba basically contribute to a substantial part of the grant funding that the program receives. So obviously, with that being not operating in a normal manner, the amount of funding that's coming to the county has also been diminished. But we need to look forward to it. Certainly the future, looking ahead to 2023, would suggest that we ought to have a very robust public transportation system in place. Otherwise, I suspect the traffic will become a chronic topic of discussion. So thank you for your presentation. I think it was very well done. At this point, we'll take the steps that are necessary to create the appropriate agreements to make this process happen.
That's great. Thank you for allowing us to present and to be supportive of us too. We really appreciate it. So
We do, thank you.
Thank you all.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I don't think we ever voted on it.
Oh, that's
First and
right.
second.
Yeah, we got
We have a motion on the table. Assuming no further conversation on the topic, all in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the resolution passes. So we're good to go on that. The next topic we have, Kate Thompson will be giving us an update on her work with the Development Commission Committee that's been working on the on local government communication and village website updates. Kate, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Randall, and good evening, everybody. Anita, thanks for bringing up the current village homepage. Just want to give you all a quick update on some of the changes to the website that are now made public, and a little bit of the future plans that hopefully will accomplish the next month, and we can come show you at the March 15th board meeting. So first of all, wanted to let you all know that at the request of the village, there's now a new COVID-19 page. And this page basically outlines all of the COVID-19 protocols that each of the departments are taking. All of the content was developed in conjunction with the departments. The exact details of the COVID-19 protocols that are being followed are under documents. If Anita, you would just click on the Village of Lake Placid. Yep, you got it. So you can see there's a document up there now that indicates what the electric department, the Department of Public Works, staff, et cetera, is doing to help protect themselves and the public with respect to COVID-19. Art, would you like to add anything to that?
No, I thank you very much for making it happen.
Okay, great. It was a good team effort. Lots of people involved.
I would like to recognize the fact, though, that Art took the initiative to go around to each department and encourage the documentation of how each department is working within COVID-19. This page, if I'm not mistaken, Kate, would also allow for updates from period over time.
Yes. Yes, it will.
Okay.
Let's hope it's not needed much longer. Be a thing of the past.
I think we would all enjoy that. Okay, the next page that we've put into place, and this starts to help us implement one of the aspects of a broader communications plan as it relates to projects that are happening within Lake Placid is this option now called Projects in Lake Placid. At some point in time, we're hoping that when the town starts to update their website as well, there'll be a similar page within the town website, and these two pages will start to link with each other. But the whole notion here is to provide a place for the community to come to understand what significant changes are taking place within the village in this in particular, and also the town, and then to learn more about each of those projects. So this Projects in Lake Placid is a landing page. It works with the Community Development Commission pages. So as projects are starting to pivot from the planning phase more towards the implementation phase, we'll start to create subpages. I think I talked to you all about this probably at the January board meeting. So Anita, why don't you click on the Main Street Lake Placid upgrades? We have our first project page out there. It's our first version of what we're doing for Main Street. Basically, so one thing it's important to understand is that this platform is a highly textual platform. So until we move the whole website over to a modern platform, most of the content will be text-based or linked. And that's just because it's the nature of the platform itself. But what we've done so far is connect this page with what's happening with respect to the Main Street Advisory Group and how the Main Street upgrade plan was created. We added an image just of the Main Street overall construction scope on the right as well. We articulated the main goals and benefits in the middle of the page of the upgrades to remind everybody why this is being done. And then from there, we talked to the first public information session where the presentation is posted at the bottom. And we also give a heads up that we're planning a second virtual public presentation. We'll put the details of that up here when we're ready, and we'll post those second public information session materials here as well. Future things we'd like to do with this, we're still working on some of the technical aspects, is we'd like to enable people to sign up for a newsletter on Main Street upgrades. This will help us support a daily notification effort that we are trying to shape underway, enabling folks to provide email addresses so that there can be a daily outreach to the community on what's happening that day and the next few days with respect to construction on Main Street. This page can also be linked to Roost if we need to do that, and Roost can link here. And if there's other elements that we need to put on this page, like a dynamic map using the Esri software that allows somebody to zoom in on more details on the construction, we can do that too. We had a meeting today with Patrick, so we're working through those technical details also, but we just wanted to let you all know that the first version is up and running. Any questions, suggestions, ideas?
I think so far you're accomplishing what we discussed over the last several months, especially with respect to the Main Street project and finding the right media to work with to get information out, and this is beginning to shape up in a manner that we hope will keep the community informed on almost a day-to-day basis as to what's going on with the project. There's a great deal more information that will roll out, and of course it's a 3-year project, so there'll be different locations where there'll be work going on, descriptions of what the work is in that area. I think the most important part of it is going to be an effort to encourage and maintain reasonable access to the Main Street while all of this is taking place.
Yes, definitely. So we're still working on other aspects of the communications plan. One is the daily notifications with a construction forecast. So that's work underway. The second public information session, we're working on the presentation. We have the logistics nailed down on that already as well. So I think probably next month we'll ask to be back on the agenda with some more things that we're doing with respect to Main Street upgrade, but also to show you some other things that we're working on or have implemented, such as a new community page, tighter links on the departments between the town and the village page, and maybe even a review of the request for expression of interest to vendors for the new website platforms. So we have a lot going on in the next month.
Trustees, any further comments or questions or observations you wish to make? This is really a significant step forward for, certainly for Lake Placid, for the village, and I can only express appreciation, Kate, for you and your committee that have been working on this. And I know it's taken, it's more technical, I think, than most of us who are not familiar with how this stuff all works. It does take some time, and it's coming together, I think, in a way that will help with the keeping our community more informed, and most importantly, giving them the knowledge that this is where they will go when they want to look at information about various projects. Because, well, this is a big project, and we're leading off with it. This page is really designed, I believe, so that other projects going forward can be put out there, so that this is where people will go to find information about what's going on with respect to these types of projects in Lake Placid. Is that a fair statement, Kate?
Very fair. And as we get closer to the second virtual public information session for Main Street, we'll start advertising the page and driving traffic to the page. And Brad has already asked for another project page to be created for something that's happening, roughly the same time as the Main Street upgrade is happening. So that's really great news that, this kind of approach is being embraced.
I just want to say thank you to Kate. I know we can all be a pain in the butt because we get super busy and don't always respond on time, but I really do appreciate everything that you've done and how hard you work to keep us all on track.
Thanks, Mindy.
Kate, how about the issue of the push program or notification by email? Is it too soon to talk about that, or is this a good forum to let people know and maybe send in their email information?
Maybe one more month, Art. We just have a few things to do, technical things to do with the page, and we have a few process things to work out in the background. So Mindy and her group have been great. They've already put a notice on all of the utility bills saying, hey, if you want to know more about what's happening in Lake Placid, call us with your email address. So we're starting to build hopefully a highly curated email address that gets to the bulk of the community members, whether they're primary owner, house homeowners, or secondary homeowners, or businesses, doesn't matter. And the intent of the list is to use it for municipal business. So it's not a marketing list, it's a municipal communications list that we're building from good, high quality known data sources that we've got, and also asking for people to share their email addresses like on the utility bills. So thank you, Mindy, for doing that. Another month, Art. We'll put that on the March one, okay?
Very good.
So with that being said, who's going to coordinate the communication component, whether the information gets uploaded and then decides when it gets pushed out via email to keep the public informed?
We're still working
have we
on
outlined this? Sorry?
That's okay. We're still working on that, Jason. I know Haley's going to have a fairly big role in that, Haley Breen. But exactly who's going to be doing what pieces yet, we're still working through.
Okay.
So hopefully by March, next board meeting, we'll know a little bit better those details.
Just to clarify, the website seems, thank you for all of the work that you're doing. And I don't think there was an expectation to redesign it. It seems not the most intuitive website. It seems kind of almost like a 1990s type website when you're looking for research papers and whatnot at a college institution. Did I hear you correctly that when that project, the Main Street project, starts to ramp up, that it'll have a more prominent place on the landing page? To prevent individuals seeking information to have excessive number of click-throughs to get through what they want to get to the information.
We can look at it, Jason. It's a tricky balance between having all these quick links on the side and having something that's prominent as well. So I understand what you're saying. We chose right now to put it under projects in Lake Placid here. Because we're going to be consolidating some of the quick links, so there's a little bit easier and readable choice on the left. But I hear you saying you want it to also be accessible. We'll figure it out. We're going to use channels like Facebook, for example, to make sure that people understand this is there, and also the daily updates. So through those channels too, we can make the page more easily remembered too. We'll work through it, but good input. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just think that if we were to analyze the data when that project, that might be a driving force for people to come to the page to check out information. And if that's the primary source of motivation, that we want to make that is available and accessible.
We can also, Anita and I work on it. We can also do something at the home page too, to elevate the link to the subpage also without making the quick links too crowded. So good input. Anita and I will put our heads together. Right, Anita?
Absolutely.
I have faith. I have faith. Thank you, Kate.
You're welcome.
Thank
you for your time. Appreciate it.
I think it's fair to express a lot of appreciation to Kate with her experience and knowledge being brought to the table, and also I know, because I see it every day, the time that Anita and Mindy in particular have spent with Kate working on the inner aspects of this that are making this all possible. There are a number of moving parts to it, and we are moving forward with something that I believe will be a pleasant experience for our community. Any other questions for Kate at this time? If not, I thank you, Kate, for this presentation and update. We'll look forward to next month.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Kate. Okay, we'll move on to section 3 of the agenda, and you have in front of you the minutes of the last board meeting of February 1st. If there are no amendments or omissions noted, I would ask for a motion accepting the minutes as presented by the clerk. Scott? Second. Art seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Anita. Those are good. Item B, I'm going to ask Anita to update us on this. This has to do with the discussion of making absentee ballots available to every registered voter in the village for the upcoming March 15th election. And Anita's done a fair amount of work, and I think can fill us in on where we're at with that, and with a recommendation.
So my understanding is, as a group, we all seem to agree that we should mail out to all eligible voters in the village an application that would allow them to vote absentee. This is approved by the governor, and it would be a good way for people to stay safe and not come in here to vote if they choose that route. So our big decision tonight is, do we want to include a self-addressed stamped envelope with that mailing or not? Judging by return numbers of our neighboring village, they got about a 10% return on these when they conducted their election this way in the fall. that would be, a few $100s worth of mailing postage that would simply go unused if we put in those envelopes and they don't come back to us. You could say that we have the money and it's worth it if it saves anyone's life, but it's also, you could also say that somebody who wants to vote badly enough could get that stamp to get it into us, and we shouldn't have to pay for it. So I don't know, it's now on the board to decide if.
Would we then use that resource if we did not spend it on return envelopes? So would we, for anyone that used an absentee ballot, would we give them a postage paid envelope, which might be a better way to use it?
We could do that. Actually, Peter recommended the same thing in an email just for this meeting, that we do not put those envelopes in with these applications, but we do go ahead and put them in with the ballots for people who are requesting the ballots.
Thoughts from the trustees?
Good one.
I just recently sent an email back, and I understand, and I think all of us are, I would say, all fiscally conscious of wanting to make sure that we're not spending any money that we're not going to get an appropriate amount of return on investment. But in my opinion, the $370 it's going to cost to ensure that we have a sort of a level playing field in a pandemic is I think we've spent exponentially more amount of money on not as important things in the grand scheme of things. So allowing and getting providing opportunities for everyone to vote, I think $370 is a bargain, personally.
I think people might be more apt to return it if they have a self-addressed envelope versus just saying, oh, I'm not going to do it. I think, is there a possibility too that maybe we could open a drop box in the front of the office up to allow people to drop them off if they want to as well? Just for the application?
I did write the letter today, and I did include that they could put them in that drop box that already exists. I don't know if that would overwhelm that box. I mean, I could go down, once an hour to see if we're getting responses there. So yeah, absolutely, they could come back to a drop box. They don't have to be put in the mail, but I guess that would still mean people having to come out.
Well, I mean, a lot of people will drop off their utility payment. We did it with the town's taxes as well. So the capacity is there to hold it. And the girls do go out on a hourly or whatever basis. I know the actual absentee ballot can't be put in there, but as far as the application, Janet, is there anything that can they not do it?
I think you're absolutely right. The ballots cannot be put in that box, and I would have to check to see if the applications don't have to be delivered directly to the clerk. Anita will have to check that, but there's no doubt that the ballots cannot go in a box. They'd have to be mailed.
The clerk,
Remember, anybody who asks for an absentee ballot, that's 2 more mailings. As you mail the ballot out, then they'll mail it back. Are you going to give self-addressed stamped envelopes for people to mail the ballots back?
We do. That we always do. Usually that's a very small number, but
Right.
Anybody who's on the disabled list by the county automatically gets that ballot with the self-addressed.
No, I'm just pointing out that's more mailings.
Yes.
I think we'll
Those
be okay.
they're going to come back because the people have asked for it, as opposed to the applications. You don't know that how many will come back.
other comments?
I'm in favor. I'm in favor of.
I think as Jason said, it's not a lot of money. Let's just do it. Let's run an election where everybody is safe. I've talked to some people they're young and healthy, and they still don't want to come here. So I think it's a good move, both for the ballot request and for the absentee?
Well, and the fact of the matter is, some people who don't come out to the polls may very well be inclined to, because it's easy to return it, to vote.
Right.
So you get more votes that way, and that's, seems to me like a reasonable exchange for the investment.
So we need a motion.
Yes.
So I guess the motion would be to send out the request for absentee ballots with return postage, as well as when the ballots are sent out, also have return postage. Second.
Further discussion? If not, we'll call a motion. All those in favor of the motion as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that is what we will do then. I
Okay.
think we thank you for the work you've done on it.
Well, it's just the beginning. But you're welcome.
Well, I think under the circumstances, absolutely, it's the right way to go. Okay,
I
moving
think,
on.
oh, sorry.
Jason?
No,
Yes.
I was just, I had just one side. I think that Lake Placid / North Elba, we're experiencing what a lot of other sort of areas had already experienced, and where it wasn't as prevalent in the fall during the national election. I think here it's a little bit more of a situation and a minor investment in order to allow everyone an opportunity to vote. I would think it's very prudent of us to do.
Well, there's another aspect to this too that I've discussed, and that is the fact that this building basically, assuming the polling place takes place as it traditionally has right here,
It needs to, according to Alice.
we certainly are going to encourage people to vote absentee because we have people that are going to have to be social distanced, wearing masks. All of that is management problem that we don't ordinarily have. And I don't think we even had it with the fall election, to be honest with you, from what I can remember. But so this will help. It serves a public safety interest at the same time that it makes it, I think, hopefully there'll be less people exposed here, which, and again, it's difficult from this time of the year in March. It could be 20 below zero. Let's hope it's 20 above. But the fact is, if we had to distance people outdoors, it becomes uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So I think this is a good approach.
The next step would be, since it's been voted on, and maybe Anita has an idea and combination of, and I know Liz is a journalist and not our public relation specialist, but we really coordinate being able to get the word out for our residents very clearly and concisely what the procedure is, and so we can get that going. We're only a month out from today, so it has to happen pretty soon.
These should all be in the mail.
Can you hear me?
This week. The labels are done. The letters are pretty much done. Tracy's going to be helping me stuff them and mail them. So once they get the letter, and every registered voter will get this letter, it's pretty self-explanatory what they have to do. And then we can reinforce it on Facebook that you are receiving this in the mail, and we encourage you to use it if you don't want to come into town hall.
Yeah, certainly. It's just one of those letting people aware that they will be receiving it, as opposed to going to the mailbox going, oh, by the way, what's this? And then researching it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think that's a successful outcome for that project. The next item we have is something we've been working on. You may recall that the Osable River Association had received a grant to in connection with road salt pollution in relationship to Mirror Lake, and there's a project that they've undertaken in the grant's $175,000. The grant required matching a funding match, which they asked the town and the village to contribute to. splitting it 2/3 village and 1/3 town, and I guess that's in proportion to the amount of the Mirror Lake surface that's either in or outside the village. The challenge was to create a memorandum of agreement because this is not a one-time thing. This is a 3-year project. And what they were asking for from the town and the village was funding in the village's instance at a rate of $10,000 a year for the years 2021, 2, and 3, and from the town corresponding amount. I have confirmed that they have been in conversation with the town, and the supervisor has confirmed that to me. The agreement you have in the packet tonight has been amended slightly since the initial one was granted to incorporate recommendations of council from Janet, and also I think one not substantial or substantive change that Ausable wanted when they inserted the terms in pilot and Ausable salt reduction initiative into the first paragraph. So with that said, I would ask for a motion tonight authorizing the mayor to execute this memorandum of agreement with the Ausable River Association, and it will document a 3-year commitment for the services that are contemplated that Ausable River will provide under this.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second. Sorry, I was muted.
Further discussion, Janet, any further comments on it? I believe you had an opportunity to review this.
No, I think it's pretty straightforward. It's factual. And the village board wants to make the commitment. I think it's all there and well reasoned as to why you're making the commitment.
Is this in addition to the other money that we usually give them? Or is
This will, over the years, we've given money to Mirror Lake Watershed Association, but Ausable River has kind of taken the lead on it now. And this grant is to Ausable River, so, but it's focused on Mirror Lake. So I would say that, that this is replacing maybe what we were more familiar with in years past. Bill, would you like to comment? Bill Billerman? You're muted if you want to unmute. Thank you.
Yes, that is correct, Mayor Randall. It is going to be directly to the Ausable River Association, where we have requested it for them to support the science, which I think is very important to continue forward in recognizing the impacts, where they're coming from, and what we can do to mitigate them. And I support the ask from the Ausable River Association, as does the rest of the Watershed Association, and hopefully you can pass it and support it.
Bill, another thing, I don't know, I haven't had a chance to talk to you about it, but the live edge plow that you made available to the village, I know there's some skepticism on our part in the beginning, but talking to Brad, he says it's working really well. Just thank you for making that available and bringing it to us.
I didn't hear all of that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just saying that the live edge plow.
Oh, yeah.
Part of that, that's really working really well. I've talked to Brad a few times. He just said it's working a lot better than he ever thought it would. But it's always nice to hear the good stuff.
Yeah, and I do notice now, I'm looking at other plows that go by, like with the state, and how much they do miss by having a single edge plow instead of a live edge plow. So that's good news, and that's part of the grant also to help get more snow off the road, so it'll be less salt. Perfect.
And I have to believe there's going to be less road damage as well when those individual edges catch something like that and pivot out of the way versus knocking the blacktop imperfections out of the ground. So that could be another benefit.
Good. It's good to hear.
Well, certainly, if you're driving the village streets, wherever they're using that plow, you do notice the difference on the road surface. It's in there scrape clean. which means we're using less ice remover to accommodate safe roads.
I do think the Department of Public Works has done a really good job of keeping the roads clear, and I haven't seen an overabundance of salt myself anywhere. I think it's been very good as far as rationing, so to speak.
Yeah, I believe, I just talked to Brad this morning. He said pretty much at this point, most of the salt we're using is just enough to keep the sand from freezing.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, well, with that said, we have a motion on the table and it's been seconded. We'll call a motion. All those in favor of entering into this agreement between the Sable River Association and the Village of Lake Placid indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that passes. I think that's project here, Mirror Lake. And ultimately, the findings here may be of a benefit to other communities that are dealing with maybe less of a problem than we were. The next item we have on the agenda for tonight is a request from the Lake Placid Public Library. I mentioned this during the work session earlier last week. And what they're proposing is to install what they refer to as a story walk using a picture book entitled Over and Under the Pond, kind of appropriate. They want to, they're asking for approval to place these, they're lawn-sized, like political signs that we would see during election season sometimes, if it isn't in the middle of winter. And they're asking to use the area around the beach and the tennis courts. And what these would be 25 weatherproof panels. Each one would tell a segment of the story. What's interesting about this particular story is it kind of relates to the habitat conditions of Mirror Lake itself, in a sense. So it's an educational activity. They have done this successfully out at John Brown's farm on some of the hiking trails out there. What they're hoping is to be able to do it in a location where there may be more members of the public that can benefit from this type of activity. It seems like a very pleasant way to give people something else of interest to add to the experience of being in Lake Placid. So I know you had an opportunity to ask questions at the work session, but are there any further questions of their proposal?
What's the duration of the time?
They actually left that up to us. They indicated any time from mid-May through September. But I think the beach park area, especially if this is geared to younger readers, it might be better if it were done in maybe July or August as opposed to June when, well, I was going to say when school is still in session, but that's kind of that's a past tense, I guess. But I would recommend that we work out an appropriate time with the library that would provide as much benefit as possible. Any other questions on the proposal? Is there anyone that feels that this would not be a good idea? I mean, I've spoken with Bambi a little bit about this. I personally support it. I think that I cautioned her that there will be a fair amount of construction going on this spring, but and again, maybe doing it in July and August when there's no Main Street construction contemplated would be the better time to do it when we don't have the distractions of trucks and everything else that will be going on.
Maybe we can request that the Kabricki or any other construction that we can affix one of the story walk signs or pictures on one of their signs along the way.
Well, who knows where this may go? You know, I think we'll certainly assess this in terms of its popularity. And again, I did send it over to the Arts Council and asked them to comment on it, and they did. And they're in favor of it. It certainly meets the Arts Council's objectives of trying to find activities that are either artistic or cultural to give Lake Placid's Main Street a different aspect of experience for people. And so they're on board as having endorsed this on behalf of the library.
I've seen the one at John Brown's Farm, and I've taken Finn up and we've walked on, and it's fantastic. It's going to take some creativity to implement it or incorporate it into Main Street, but I look forward to it.
Very well. Could we have a motion supporting the library's request?
So moved.
Jason, Scott seconds. Further discussion? If not, we'll call a motion. All those in favor of the library's request to install a story walk project on the surrounding the beach park and tennis courts indicate by saying aye. Those opposed indicate by saying opposed. Okay, library proposal passes. I think that'll be fun to work with. Next item we have is, and this is a request from Bill Billerman and Songs of the Lake to establish some dates for Songs of the Lake, 3 different dates in August. On the condition that all the conditions and approvals that would be required would be met as it relates to the pandemic for gatherings. They're proposing August 17th, 24th, and 31st for a 3-series presentation of concerts, and hoping that large gatherings may be available at that time. Obviously, if they're not, that would have an impact on, I think, on Bill's organization's thoughts as to how they go forward. Bill, would you like to comment at this time?
Yes, not knowing what we can do and when, we just wanted to try and get some options so that when we know what we can do, we're going to try and either have it as scheduled or push more dates into August and try and delete the dates in the beginning, which would be in June and beginning of July, if we can do it. And then the other option is we are going to try and provide some music out of the horse show grounds with drive-in concerts if we cannot use Mits Park for large gatherings. So all I wanted to do was really try and get some backup dates in case we move the concert series more towards the fall and towards the end of the summer, to reserve it now so that we know we have the option as we go forward into the spring.
I think we're all hopeful that these events eventually can happen again in its part. However, I think your cautions and backup dates are a prudent thing at this point, since we don't know what to expect. And these would replace the other dates that we would normally, we have approved for a normal season starting in July. Is that correct, Bill?
No, actually, I'd like to keep what we have established, the 7 dates that we have, starting with, I think, June 29th, and ask for the 3 additional dates. And as we get closer to the summer, I can let you know what we want to keep and what we don't want to keep. I just want to have the option to move it back if we want to, or if it becomes necessary to do that. So I think that it's just a matter of keeping the options open.
So do all of you understand that this is going to add 3 dates that may or may not be used, or he may shift using some of the dates that he already has approved? They're all on Tuesdays, as has been the practice right along. I think it makes sense. I think we're all hoping, a lot of our other local events, I shouldn't say a lot, but a few of our other local events are pushing back into the fall dates, hoping the same thing that you are, Bill, that by that time, maybe conditions have improved enough that some things can happen.
Yeah, you know, one day I feel like we're going to be able to do it. The next day, I don't feel like we're going to be able to do it. So it's really an up and down situation, and having the dates available to move into the fall or into August more might be helpful. It might work out better that way. So I would appreciate it if we were able to reserve those 3 dates in August so that we can have the option when we figure out what we can do.
We certainly don't have any other events committed to those dates, and I have a feeling that the community would be thrilled if anything can happen.
Bill, you mentioned the fall. Has your organization thought it doesn't seem to even slow down for Lake Placid, even during a pandemic, of maybe even weekend sort of situations throughout September, maybe? Even if this seems like the latter part of the summer or the beginning part of the summer doesn't seem to work out the way you intended it to, or the vaccination rollout and all the other factors don't seem to come together to make it fruitful in the beginning, or even
we did talk about maybe going into the fall. We thought we'd try this first, and
Okay.
you know, as we have to wait and see what can be opened up in large gatherings and things like that, because I don't see us going to Mids Park with having to screen people and keep them socially distanced. It just will not work. I think the concerts have to be opened up as they were before. I don't care if maybe with masks, I'm not sure, but they have to be opened up so people don't have to be socially distant, because I think it's going to be tough to try and enforce that.
Mm-hmm. It's antithetical to what the songs on Mirror Lake. You want as many people as you can, but not be exclusive, only admitting X number of people.
Sure.
And
Sure.
also, there are a lot of artists who have done sort of some virtual concerts. Has your organization looked into that? Because a lot of your revenue, so to speak, is based on fundraising and raffles, and going 2 seasons into it potentially might make it difficult to keep you guys afloat. I'm not necessarily sure of what your finances are. Have you explored that maybe as one of maybe the drive-in component?
We thought that drive-in would be a better idea in the sense that people, I don't think there's any substitute for live music. And
I know, I know live music, there's nothing, there's not a substitute for live music, but I'm just thinking if there is a generous, notable artist that would want to help your organization and maybe having one virtual screening, that might be a way to generate some revenue for you. Just an idea.
Actually, we did look into that. We have thought about it, but it's kind of, that's on the back burner compared to what we really want to do as far as presenting live music. So
fair enough.
Okay, well, certainly there's nothing that would interfere with adding these 3 dates to the potential dates that Bill already has, with the understanding that if he has to push back, these would be available for him. So I'd ask for a motion authorizing that on the conditions that Bill is already committed to.
So second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Bill, I think you're good on that.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for being present to share some thoughts with us. Okay. Mindy, before I go into the warrant, is there anything that you would like to speak to in addition to what's on the agenda?
I don't think so at this time. I sent everybody an email just to let them know what my current situation is, which is why I'm at home right now. And my days actually flipped because our snowstorm decided that, it didn't want to hit the way it was supposed to. So I will be in the office on Thursday now instead of Wednesday, but I'm available from 8 o'clock until 5 o'clock every day from home. So I've actually gotten quite a bit done at home. Now, when school starts on Thursday, we'll see how that goes. But
We seem to have
other
a few
than that,
are either home due to children who are quarantining, or in a couple of cases, we've got a trustee and one of our department heads who's temporarily quarantining.
right.
School, both buildings, I understand, are going to open on Thursday. I have to revisit that. So, but there will be some students and teachers who will have to quarantine.
Yeah,
They'll be
Sydney
unable
was
to
in direct
attend.
contact, so
Yeah.
she gets to stay home an extra 2 days. But she's actually gotten a lot. She's asked to do homework, so I can't complain.
Yep. Well, that's Sydney being Sydney. So
She said hi, by the way. She saw that you waved to her, but she was super excited to see you on the screen.
yeah. I saw her. I was like, hey.
Okay, well, we'll move on and we'll take up the affidavit for these bills to be paid tonight. The affidavit number 13 for the current budget year proposes payment of bills totaling $848,545.91. To that, there are $363.12 in refunds that were made to utility customers. I'll be happy to read the breakout if anybody wishes. You all have it in front of you. The biggest items, as we might guess, are the electric bill in the electric department.
So moved. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, any abstentions? Okay, we're set to go on that. Thank you, Mindy.
Yep. I'm actually gonna sign off because Mike has to work at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I get to cook dinner tonight. So if anyone needs me, just let me know.
Thank you.
Will do. Thank you.
Under new business, I don't have any new business items to present tonight. Does anyone else? If not, we'll move on to old business. Not a lot has changed in the last few days. I do have, and I just received it off the printer, notice that the pre-construction meeting for the Main Street project is now scheduled for Thursday, February 25th at 10:30 a.m. in the morning. It's going to be held at the Olympic Conference Center, which offers space. And even there, I think Anita will need to confirm with Jackie the maximum number of people, but it may be 20 or 25. Which is similar.
Brad gave me a number. I think it was closer to 15. Jackie already had the list was there, but I will confirm.
She has this list. I would like, if possible, to add at least one representative from the Communications Committee, just as an observer. I know they asked for more than that, but if I can get one, I would be, that one will have to report back to the rest of the committee. So that we'll work on that and keep you up to date. Also, I'm thrilled to report that the work permits for the Main Street project came today in a cardboard box addressed to the mayor, about 25 pounds of paper. But we now have the work permits for the project. They're in the possession of the village.
That was in the morning.
Not quite that big.
Not quite that big. Brad will be looking at them in the morning. There's a number of documents, and we'll determine what needs to be done and where they need to be kept. But they're available for any of you who wish to inspect them or study them in any way that you might have a need for. That's pretty much on Main Street. Land use code, I Don't know, Art, if there's been any
Land,
concurrent.
as usual, land use code update and short term are really one and the same these days. And right now, we're just hammering out and discussing plan developments such as Whiteface Inn, how they apply and how they favor in the land code review. We're getting close. It's just detail after detail. Also, on the horizon is speaking to the Shoreowners Association about their concerns. But as yet, we haven't made contact and set up a meeting, but probably by next meeting, we'll have some answers.
I will add to that. I happened to see some emails offering updated community block grant funding that may be available. I've sent that on to Dean and Haley to consider, because I think it might be helpful. We will be going later this year. I expect a comprehensive plan update, and the last time we went through one of those, I think the village piece of that was about $20,000, the town a similar amount. So they have that. I think Dean confirmed that he thought that might be useful for that type of thing. So we might have a grant application, might be Haley's first project.
And I think D, local government communications, Kate's given us a good update on where that stands at the moment.
I think we got a very good update from her this evening on that. Other than that, any other old business items that are not on the agenda? Mayor items tonight looks kind of blank because it is blank. I'm happy to report that I'm despite rumors, I did get my first experience riding in our voluntary ambulance. I can tell you it's a bumpy ride at best. And although the issue that caused that to happen was, I guess I want to say frightening. But I understand now in some discussion with some other community people that vertigo, severe vertigo is there may be something in the community, because there's at least 4 other people that have experienced the same thing. It is the worst experience that I can remember, aside from being very drunk, which hasn't happened to me.
At least you earned it, but not with vertigo though, unfortunately.
Well, it's a good experience. We don't know that yet for sure, but what I heard today suggests that there may be something in the form of a virus that's circulating in the community. So.
Oh, okay. I have my eldest brother suffers from vertigo, and he's I've never heard of the extreme sort of symptoms that he has experienced. It could be debilitating for sure. I wouldn't want to wish that on anyone.
Well, if nothing else, it was an expensive day. I spent time in both emergency rooms, had my first CAT scan ever.
Oh, wow.
That was a fairly pleasant experience.
You're feeling better now, my assumption is.
It hasn't reoccurred, and for that, I'm
Okay.
incredibly grateful.
Because they can linger the impact, so hopefully that doesn't happen.
I hope not. Commissioner reports, anything, I think we're in that time of the year when there's outside of the normal
Plowing, sanding, removing snow.
winter storm related issues, which thank God didn't turn into, although the night isn't over.
I do have one thing. In talking with Brad, and this might be a good one for you, Liz, is he's had a number of times where water lines have broken. And it isn't the usual water lines, it's people's basements water lines, because they're turning the heat down in the basement to save money, and they're freezing. And we're having to go out and shut them down, let their plumbers fix it, and then turn it back on again. But it might be worth noting to people, make sure you have plenty of heat in the basement so your pipes don't freeze.
Or at least sufficient heat.
Mm-hmm.
But it's unusual this year, higher than normal.
Okay.
No, it's been a rather warm winter.
Anything else, Scott? Art, Jason, Peter? Haven't
No.
heard much from Peter. Okay. Janet, anything further that you want to bring up this evening? If that's the case, then I'll ask, or I'll invite anybody that's on virtually that wants to bring up a topic or has a comment to unmute yourself, and you're welcome to do that now.
I have a couple of questions if there's nobody else from the public.
Okay, you can go ahead, Liz.
Okay. I just wanted to confirm a couple of details about the absentee ballots. So the village is going to provide return postage for both the application and the ballot itself?
Yes.
Okay. And how many registered voters are these being sent to?
1,555.
Okay. And when should the ballots arrive in the mail? Or the application, I should say?
If they go smoothly, then I would say early next week. We're going to work on stamping and stuffing them all over the next few days. And I'm hoping to get them in the mail Friday, so maybe people get them Monday, Tuesday, but certainly by the end of next week, they should have them.
Okay.
And Anita, just to be clear, the list comes from, the list of registered voters comes from the county, correct?
That's correct. If anyone still wants to register, they have, I believe, until March 5th to register. But if you're not registered now, you're not going to be part of this mailing. You can still call the office and I can mail you one if you become a registered voter. Because only registered voters are going to be getting absentee ballots.
I think that's an important message that people can still register.
Yeah, with the county, not
Yes.
with
Right. Okay. And when was the public information session on Main Street? The second one?
I don't know. Oh, there's the
We haven't announced the date yet, Mayor Randall.
No, that's correct. That is the answer, Liz.
We'll,
It's being-
we'll make sure you know, Liz. Yeah.
Okay, great. And I guess just generally, there's been some concerns among people in the community that, some business owners are seeing some more pushback on COVID restrictions from their customers. And some people have said, oh, I've been walking along Main Street and I've noticed that more people than usual aren't wearing masks. Has the village considered any kind of like additional signage or messaging to kind of encourage people further to adhere to the restrictions?
I think, Liz, the signage that's out there, I think we could probably add additional signage, but I don't know that it would change anything. I think people are feeling that it's winter, it's cold, and there may be various reasons why they prefer not to wear masks outside of the fact that they just don't want to wear them. But I will, with that comment in hand, I'll ask our police department, who's been very helpful at this in the past, to start emphasizing when they're out on the street that people still have to wear a mask on Main Street. That has not been lifted.
Okay. Ed, I'd like to thank our local business owners who are from what I understand, have been extremely stringent with the protocols. And that's where the friction's coming in, where they, and I have seen a lax amount of people starting to wear it, not like it was in the summertime, which I find odd because you think you'd want an extra layer of warmth because it's only been about -5 degrees of late. But maybe Roos can get involved and we can give a little bit of a push.
It's a challenge at best, and I will say this week, it's holiday week in Lake Placid for February. I was out on the street myself today. Majority of people are wearing masks that I could see. If you went to the toboggan run at 2 o'clock this afternoon, there was a huge audience there standing in line waiting patiently, and they seem to be certainly maybe not 6 feet, but I would say that in my observation, the majority of people did have masks on, and that may be because somebody at the bottom of the lip or the run is making sure that they have a mask. I'll speak with Butch about that just to reinforce it.
Okay.
Great. That's all I had for you guys. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Liz. Anyone else wish to comment or have a question? If not, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn this meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Thank you all for attending.